I was hoping that would show up frontwards, but
Fail.
you get it. Don't be a Richard. Just thought I'd show off my new gift from our staff Christmas party last night. So
I don't approve of that.
This will be a staple of our coffee chats for here on out. So it's been a while since it was you and me. Welcome back. It's been a couple weeks, so I'm excited to finally be back and talk about some of the ideas that we have. So the topic today is stemming from something that I was actually dealing with this morning when I woke up. I have chronic low back pain which I'm sure you love to hear your chiropractor say that kind of thing, but I'm a realist.
Irony does not escape us.
No. So it likes to pop up every once in a while, but the good thing is I've come to know how I can take care of myself, which is something we try to teach our patients. So I went to the gym, back was still feeling a little weird, knocked out some of my exercises, and then I actually squatted. So with that in mind, I thought, why don't we talk about exercise modification for people in acute back pain episodes?
Yeah, this is a topic that I am unfortunately rather knowledgeable about, just being a track athlete and doing lots of bilateral hip hinging, heavy hip hinging for, 20 years or whatever. I'm sort of the same way, and I've found a lot of ways to modify exercise so that I can try to maintain as high of a fitness level as possible with as little back pain as possible, which is kind of nice.
So just to begin, if somebody has low back pain, best plan of action is no exercise, just stop moving, right?
Totally, yeah. We just want to make sure to lay in bed, no exercise.
Yeah. So we're joking, obviously, but unfortunately, sometimes we have patients come in who have been told just complete rest, which in all reality may be completely working against their progress.
Well, a lot of the docs that are watching this probably are following this because we get like a nice little combination of docs and then, of course, patients. The docs that are probably following this, I know for a fact that they're getting patients because they're the type of office that keeps people moving. So we have a lot of runners and triathletes and powerlifters and Olympic lifters and CrossFitters, and all of them are passionate about their hobby and they want to keep doing it. So if they come in with a low back injury, let's say they're a CrossFitter, they don't want to be told, well, just sit out and take 3 weeks off, which is the common thing that they're told. They can go to a sports specialist, an MD or a DO, and they'll say, here's some anti-inflammatories and just don't do that for a month, which, okay, if you don't do that for a month, sometimes the pain goes away. A lot of times it doesn't, which sucks. Mm-hmm. But then what oftentimes happens, and this is when they come in to see us, is they rest. Like I have a patient coming in this week that rested for 9 months with running because she was told and then still has knee pain. Sure. So they rest, they feel okay, and then they actually, perfect timing with the... with the apparently tornado. It's noon.
Yep.
But so she rested for 9 months and then she still has pain. So if you don't address the dysfunction, it's probably going to come back, but we're kind of focusing on, well, how do you modify exercises so that you can continue to do the thing that you love, right. Weight lift, run, whatever the case is. So.
And good luck telling someone like a
born-again CrossFitter?
Yes, a born-again CrossFitter to stop doing CrossFit. So none of them want to hear that. My background in athletic training or your background in strength conditioning, especially with the athletic population, good luck telling a coach that, nope, they're doing nothing now. So
yeah, it's not.
Our job is to no way. Oh, we're still going.
Oh, we're still going.
All right.
Keep that shit in there.
So how might we modify exercise for the acute pain population?
Well, let's start off with what mostly causes low back pain, and that's the disc, the intervertebral disc. And so that is like a cartilaginous sort of sponge bumper, so to speak, in between the bones of the spine. And that very, very often is the cause of pain. So to modify lifting, we need to be modifying things in a way that takes the load off of that. What I find to be the most problematic in weightlifting, because that's kind of what we're focusing on, or any kind of strength training, is bilateral hip hinging. So bilateral means both feet. Hip hinging is just sort of this motion. So that can be swings, that can be an RDL, that can be a squat. All of those involve bilateral hip hinging. That actually is going to turn on the back muscles a ton, create a massive compressive load on the spine, and then it also forces the spine to move more than it may want to. So for me, my go-to is going to be avoid doing bilateral hip hinging. You can do heavy lunges. Today I did heavy 100-pound sandbag Zerker carries, like in the front step-ups. So it's still working my legs, but because I'm doing unilateral, one leg, because I'm doing unilateral, it doesn't put the same load through my back. That's like the number one thing that I would say is the go-to is stick to unilateral movements.
Yeah, so for example, this morning, like I said, I was dealing with my own episode. Lucky enough, the gym that I'm working out at, 614 Barbell, has something called a pitch shark, so I was still able to do some symmetrical stuff because it takes the load off of your back, which could also drive that extension compression. But then besides that, I was doing things like
let's dig into that for a second.
Okay.
So I just said don't do bilateral hip hinging, and he did bilateral hip hinging and felt better. But what he did is he modified it in a way where he could still work the legs, but not as much as going through the spine. So a pitch shark, instead of a barbell being on his back, it's actually wraps around your waist here, and it goes kind of between your legs. So he's able to squat, but the load is now going through the pelvis and not actually through the disc. So that's another way that you can modify the movement to reduce the load on the disc.
Right. Now, obviously, everybody doesn't have access to something like that. Another way, if it's a must-have symmetrical squat movement that you want to do, goblet squats is another way that I've found personally I can offload some of that. But
front loading, you should just say front loading in general. There's two reasons why that helps. One is when the bar's on your back, right? Squatting is basically a balancing act. So if the bar's on your back, you have to lean more forward, okay? Because to keep the center of mass of the whole thing over your feet. The flatter your spine is, the more likely you're going to bend that spine into a bad position. It's also the more likely that you're going to have to arch into that bar, turning on the back muscles more, turning on the back muscles more, which increases the compressive load on the discs. And then finally, for ways that I will not have time to describe in 2 minutes and 55 seconds, you actually lose hip flexion range of motion in that squat, so you're more likely to round your back over at the bottom of the squat that we call a butt wink in the industry. By front loading, like he suggested, you're actually taking the compressive loads off the spine, you're improving your ability to activate, proper stabilizing strategy, and you're reducing the amount of that butt wink that you have. So those three things all result in less load to the disc.
Now, obviously, we would want to be coaching those appropriately if we were having an acute case, do those things. But to go back to the asymmetrical stuff, those are things that, for the most part, we could tell people or program it for them, go off if you're going to go work out, let's do these for now. And they could be a fairly safe move for those acute cases. Now, if you followed our stories, I also I supplemented some press-ups because I know that's my directional preference, which is a McKinsey thing.
Are you
I'm
certified?
I think you're certified. So I utilize some of these things that we do on the table in here within the gym space to get my spine in the appropriate place that I want it to be. I worked on reducing my derangement, and then I implemented it within a bigger movement, aka the squat.
I mean, the other thing that you can do there, we can just go through just like the normal ones. You can warm up longer, make sure that you're making, everything is kind of moving well. You're taking a little bit more time to start loading it up so that you can kind of feel and assess how you're doing. I would say you could sort of shift away from max contraction and use another method called the repeated effort method. So instead of going after like 5 sets, and your last 2 sets are maximum intensity, like max triples or something, you might do 7 or 8 sets at a lower percentage. And by lowering the percentage, you can actually feel when it starts to get to that dangerous point much, much sooner. And so you can avoid getting to that point. Whereas if you do max contraction, you might do the first 2 reps okay, and then the 3rd rep, it's like, boom, there it goes. So if you're using the repeated effort method, you can actually sense and stay away from that bad zone pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I
46 seconds.
I think a lot of people look at these periods of time when they're in this acute pain as they're not getting the proper training that they want to be getting. But to put it into a different box, this is a great opportunity to be working on proper technique. We talk about
other things that you wouldn't normally
focus on. Yeah, so if anything, that if we put it in that way, it could be a great opportunity to just improve when you get back from your injury.
Yeah, when you're healthy, 20 seconds, you basically just sort of like can just plow through and go. When you get injured, you have to kind of reassess, and it gives you this time where you can work on other things that you normally would just sort of forget about. The result is at the end, 5 seconds to go, at the end you actually are a better athlete than you were when you started.
Boom.
Done.
Nice. Don't forget.
Don't be a Richard.